This Louisville matchup for NC State on Friday night could be one of the most pivotal of the entire season. How do they get it done? Well, we got the keys.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Wolfpack, free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Happy Thursday. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. We have a fun episode for you today here on Thursday. We typically do Fan Fridays, but because our Locked On crossover with Locked On Louisville will be on Friday, we have mixed it up a bit. So we will be having Fan Thursday. And then, of course, as I just mentioned, we will have a crossover episode with Dalton Pence of Locked On Louisville to bring to you on Friday. You might notice that today I'm pronouncing it as Louisville instead of yesterday saying Louisville. I do know the correct way to pronounce it. It's just one of these situations you focus so hard on saying it correctly, you press the record button and then say it incorrectly for the entire episode. It's kind of like Inspector Clouseau in the Pink Panther when he cannot pronounce the word hamburger. That's like
this
Louisville,
guy
for me. So I know it's Louisville.
This guy.
Louisville moving forward here, but we're going to jump right into some Fan Thursday here, talking about some of our top comments of the week. Our first comment here comes from Toast803. They say, the offense is what it is, but we see flashes in the young guys. My concern is the defense. They keep breaking down when offenses go up-tempo. And I believe what I responded with was, I think it's all connected here. Dave Doran talks a lot about playing complementary football, and what that means is the offense being able to stay on the field an extended amount of drive, giving the defense a rest from having to be on the field every 45 seconds to a minute, and defense able to create turnovers that leads into offense, one helping the other out. I don't know that we've seen very many instances of that so far through 4 games here. So I think in the concerns that you have the offense, some defense could assist in that. It's something we talked about last week. Creating offense from defense. That is a pivotal point in this game, which we'll touch on in just a bit, but it's all connected here. I believe that the evolution of one will influence the evolution of the other. When the offense does pick it up here, we're hoping, especially to happen in this game, I think you'll see a boost in the defense as well. They feed off of each other.
You know, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to leave it right here. The reality is being satisfied with this offense so far is a take. Because in 3 games against Power 5 opponents, not only have we averaged 24 points, we've scored exactly 24 points in all 3. That is insane. That is not like it's a bad thing that we've scored exactly 24 in all 3. Not the worst thing in the world, but just the odds that you scored 24 in the first game, 24 against Notre Dame, 24 against UVA, odd. But with that being said, I'm worried about it because we may need more than that to beat this offense. Just being very realistic, I know that Louisville hasn't seen a defense like ours yet this season. And Grayson, you're a better one than me because I don't care. We know who we're talking about. If we say Louisville, Louisville, doesn't matter. They know who we're talking about here. So the reality is our offense needs to produce at a higher level. But I do agree that the defense breaking down when teams go up tempo is a problem. You know, that's something that Brom has probably cooked into their scheme this week in terms of, hey, they struggle when teams go up tempo. Great. I love to go up tempo. If you saw him at Purdue at all, you know that's not something that Brom shies away from in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So we got to be ready for it.
Actually, speaking of up tempo here, our next comment comes from Pat Clemens. He liked the comments that we had on NC State running an up-tempo offense. He says, I think we need to play up-tempo more often. Separately, I'm starting to think it is Doran that's holding back the offense. This offense looks nothing like the Syracuse offense that Anai ran last season. Reviewing some of the tape that we've been doing here every week, the biggest amount of positive I'm seeing is when we are in up-tempo offense. That is when we're consistently connecting downfield on multiple throws in a row for first downs, gashing the defense for 10 to 15 yards at a time on the ground. This is all happening up-tempo. The lapses of the offense, it's become very apparent. It's usually in the second half, and we just get so incredibly conservative, it makes you want to rip your hair out. And in this game against Louisville, they have the offense that you cannot afford to just sit back and trust your defense for the entire game. This is a game that I think can likely turn into a shootout here, and NC State's going to have to let the horses out of the stable here to run a bit.
Yeah.
If not, we could get very quickly left in the dust.
I agree. And I agree. Up-tempo is where we need to be going with this thing. That's not somewhere that we need to shy away from or anything along those lines. Also, on the thought of Doran holding this offense back, why would you say something so controversial, yet so bold, so brave, if you will? I'll say this. I do not like the amount of screens that have been called under Anai, under Beck. I don't know why we're such a screen-heavy team. Kind of doesn't make sense to me to a point. With that being said, I would hope that Doran can trust his coordinators because we have two of the best in the business. Objectively speaking, we have two of the best in the business. So I hope that Doran knows, hey, my job is to make sure everything goes smooth, do the clock management, do all those things. Let them handle the play calling. Let me get out the way so that we can, be our best selves here.
Next one comes from our guy, T to the Rock. They say the crowd needs to be a factor Friday night. Yes, I agree. I trust the defense will do what it takes to keep us in the game. I just need to see something from the offense in this one. Can we please get a complete effort from the offensive side of the football? Trevor, you're preaching to the choir here, brother. We all need to see some offense from NC State in this game, and probably a lot of it. We talked yesterday about the firepower that Louisville has on the offensive side of the ball. NC State is going to have to find a way to match it or get a lot of help from their defense in this game. Creating turnovers that lead directly into offense can be a key portion of this, but this is a big-time show-me game for Brennan Armstrong. I feel like we've said this a couple times already, but really this time, this is a humongous opportunity for Armstrong to right the ship because he has struggled here in the first 4 games. This is a massive, I would go as far as to say, I believe the rest of the season could potentially hinge on a game like this. I think if we come out and we get steamrolled at home on a Friday night game, who knows where the season goes from there. But if we show up and we show out, we execute at a high level, and we make sure that we properly defend home field here, because I do believe we can, this is a performance you could see momentum being built off of as we move further down the line here in the schedule.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And I'll say this. I'm not sure I trust the defense to do what needs to be done to keep us in this game. I'm not exactly 100% sold on that. We need a complete game for everybody. Yes, we need a complete effort from the offensive side of the ball. We need a complete game for everybody. We need everybody to show up in this game. This is a game that, like you said, Grayson, huge implications for the rest of the season. These are two teams that are early in the season, a battle of, what most people would call middleweight or light heavyweight teams to see who can come out on top and who can potentially move themselves into that heavyweight conversation. This is going to be huge for that. This is going to set the tone for, hey, we're ready. We're taking on all comers. That's who we are. Or, oh, well, there's always a reason. Oh, well, there's this happened and that happened. And this is a program game. And I mean that with everything in my heart and soul. This is a program game to talk about who are you as a program. This game will tell us a lot about, are we ready to seriously compete, or is it, oh, well, we're in a rebuilding year. Sorry, guys, didn't want to tell you, but we are now. No. We're going to find out right here.
Yeah, I think that this game is one of maybe a few games, but perhaps the biggest game in which we will learn the most about what we have here in 2023. I think we will learn exactly what kind of defense we have against what has been the top offense in the ACC so far. And to keep up with an offense like that, you're going to need offense of your own. We're going to need to see massive strides being made in a short amount of time because we're past being able to wait around here. This is game 5. We're coming up on the halfway point in the season, which is crazy to say. We have to move the ball effectively now. We have to score points now. We have to be figuring this out right now. We don't have time to wait. This is not a rebuild year. I saw a lot of discourse about that throughout the week. I don't think it's a rebuild year. It's more of a transition year. I can talk more about that at another time, but we need to see the evolution of this offense now. Friday night, prime time against Louisville has to happen. Last question here from Logan Jackson. He says, fun question for y'all on a lighter note, separate from the season. Been seeing some stuff about the young Gunner Rivers balling out in his first couple high school games. Is it just a fan pipe dream, or should the Pack offer this kid ASAP and offer in to bring his pops to be the quarterback coach? I'd kill to see Phil in red again, and it seems like a no-brainer to bet on his kid if possible. Now, this one is an interesting question. I still think it's maybe a little early to discuss this, as Gunner is just a freshman in high school, but it seems like a total no-brainer for NC State to be involved when the time comes. I think the pipe dream part of this is expecting Phillip Rivers to be a package deal of sorts. I don't see him ever coaching for the Pack. I'm just not sure that's something that he will get into. And of course, we know he's a family man. That'd be a big sacrifice, leaving his 47 kids at the house.
Would it though? Would it? Like, hear me out. This is a guy that spent a significant amount of time in Raleigh already.
Well, sure.
And, if you look at that and you say, like, he's already coaching high school football, right? Yeah. Would it be that big of a stretch? You sure about that? I'm not. I don't think I'll tell you this. I think that offering high school freshmen is often you're playing with fire a little bit because you don't know who they're going to turn out to be, how they're going to turn out to be. We could say that he's got the stock. He comes from good stock, of course. The genetics are there. The genetics are absolutely there. But sure, I could see offering him as a quarterback for 2027 or whatever the case may be. Either way you cut or slice it, the fact of the matter still remains. I think that Phillip Rivers would be a hell of a recruiter too.
Oh yeah, you could believe that.
We've seen him talk his talk now. We've seen it. I think that's a guy that can recruit. He's got some fire. This ain't the worst thing I've heard. I'll tell you that much for sure.
Again, I do think NC State will likely get involved here probably in another year to 2 years, assuming that Gunner continues to develop on that track. Of course, I'd imagine he's got all the coaching that he will need to continue to progress toward D1 college ball. But that will be interesting to keep an eye on. Maybe another legacy player to come through NC State. In just a moment here, we're going to dive into Kenton's keys for Louisville after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Yes, that's right. $200 back in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. This app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. College football season is already a quarter of the way done, and this season Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in-depth like only Locked On can. This includes insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it, especially because our very own Kenton Gibbs is a part of the national panel. So be sure to check out Kenton and the crew every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, Kenton, we're going to dive into Kenton's keys here for the Louisville game this Friday evening. We're going to start on the offensive side of the ball.
Doran talked about protecting the football. We're going to talk about protecting the football. 1 turnover or less. That is vital. If we look at the winding arch of what has happened this season, when we protect the ball, we win, period. When we protect the ball, we win. When we don't, the only game that we've lost this year, we have 3 turnovers in that game?
Yep.
It's a very simple equation. You protect the ball, you win the game. You don't, then you won't. And that's that on that. Get the tight ends involved. Get them involved. Get the ball. Listen, we talked about the young guys and how they're coming on earlier in the show. Here's the reality. If we don't get Juice Vereen involved, if we don't get Trent Penix involved, if we don't get Christopher Touchdown Tootle involved, we have a better tight end room than pretty much anybody else in the conference. I very seriously mean that. Our tight end room rivals anybody else's. I put ours up against anybody, especially with the way that Juice has looked so far this season. That was the only guy that I'm like, I'm not sure what he is yet. And he said, oh, I'm him. That's who I am. Look great so far. Get the tight ends involved. When we have found ways to get Trent Penix the ball in space, he's shown why he used to be a running back. Christopher Tootle is still a dude that is a big body in the red zone with soft hands. Find ways to get him the ball. What are we doing here? Get the tight ends involved. If we're having problems getting our receivers open, okay, that's fine. Get it to our tight ends. This Louisville team, really good up front defensively. That linebacking core and secondary outside of Neal, not so sure. Not so sure about those guys. So get it to the tight ends, please. Last but not least, win at the line of scrimmage. We need less than 2 sacks, less than 6 pressures. It's not just about the sack amount given up. It's also about the pressure amount given up, okay? Like, we need to have Brennan Armstrong be clean back there and able to make decisions. The reality is if he's looking around and oh, God, I don't know what's going on and all that good stuff, we're going to have some problems there. Give him time to make the right reads so that he's not panicking, so that he's not saying, I got to get the ball out right away. That defensive line is the strength of the Louisville defense. If you can negate them, you'll have a field day feasting on the rest of them.
I've harped on it all week, even in this episode earlier today. I need to see this offense execute consistently up-tempo. Scanning back through some of our tape in their first 4 games, every time that we're able to move the ball downfield at an effective rate, it's because we're moving it up-tempo. It just seems like the offense is at its best when we're up-tempo. Everybody looks to be in sync. The wide receivers seem to be generating more separation when we're running up-tempo. The running backs are able to generate more on the ground when the defense is on their heels, especially Michael Allen. If you get him a full head of steam, you could see several rushes for 20-plus yards in this game against Louisville. I just need to see more execution and more consistency. That is the name of the game here for the offense. Consistency, consistency, consistency. Now, jumping over to the defensive side of the ball, what do you have for us, Kenton?
Absolutely. I've talked about Johar Jordan and how he's a guy that if we do not maintain gap discipline, he will go ahead and it'll be a long day. Katie Didd's at the doorstep. This is going to be a great time for Johar. We need to make this difficult. We need to make them have to fight and scrap for yardage. Not, oh, yeah, we fought and scrapped for yardage outside of those 6 plays where we found 50-plus. Outside of those few plays where all of a sudden there was a crease and this is a back that he has that type of speed. That young man has the type of speed that is legitimately like, hey, if somebody's not where they're supposed to be, he's going to find a way to that end zone. And so no big runs allowed, no runs over 20 yards plus. I know that we didn't get this done against VMI, so some people are going to look at me and say, for you to come back with this key against a team that is very, a much better at running the ball than VMI, that's kind of outlandish. I don't care. I want outlandish. I want this defense standing on its head, playing absolutely phenomenal ball. No big runs allowed.
Yeah, this is the top rushing attack in the ACC, but to beat them, this is what it will take.
Number 2, keep everything in front of us. Same thing with the rushing game, with the passing game. This is a big play offense, folks. This is an offense that gets guys behind you often. This is an offense that is predicated not just on, hey, we'll nickel and dime you down the field. Hey, we'll get what we need and take the big shot here and there. This is an offense that loves to push you vertical. We have to keep everything in front of us, play assignment strong football, and if they make a great catch where it's like, hey, Thrash just showed why he's probably going to be making a lot of money on Sundays. You live with that. But with that being said, keep him in front of you, get him on the ground, and let that be that. Do not have, a situation where he's going, and gone on the night. So, and not just him, but Huggins as well. Bruce Huggins, I believe, as well. It shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen. So we need to go ahead and keep everything in front of us. Stop the stars, folks. Stop the stars. I know Dancing with the Stars just came back, but we don't want to see their stars dancing this Friday night. We don't want to see them in the end zone grittying or whatever other dances that these two like to do when they get in the end zone. We don't want to see it. I don't want to see none of it. Keep these two to a combined 150 yards or less. Here's what I'll say. I have never said this about an individual key before. If we complete key number 3, I am guaranteed that we will have at absolute worst, a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter. I am guaranteeing that at minimum we achieve that third key. And that's at worst. Best case scenario, we hold those two under 150. This thing we could boat race. We could boat race, but that's a key as well.
I would like to add in, and I'll make it very simple here, turnover bone. I think we need to see the turnover bone a minimum of 2 times in this game, probably closer to 3 if we're being realistic here. But a major point of contention in this game Friday night will be the amount of pressure we can get on Jack Plummer. If we're able to force him into major mistakes, that is where this game can be won for NC State. If they're not able to pressure him, if they're not able to force any turnovers, yeah, it could be a very long night for those dressed in all black. If you allow enough time to formulate and push the ball down the field with no pushback at all from NC State, I don't see how we're going to be able to overcome that if that were to be the case. I don't think our offense will be able to win a shootout, I should say. The defense is going to have to lead the charge in this, and it's going to start with forcing multiple turnovers. In just a minute here, we're going to round out our Thursday episode with our final thoughts and predictions for Louisville on Friday night. Our second Friday game in a row, another Friday Night Lights episode for the NC State Wolfpack. 7 p.m., Carter-Finley. It is a blackout. Louisville is favored by 3.5, so NC State is home underdogs. We're going to give our final predictions here, including score predictions. Kenton, I'll let you go first.
As much as I want to say that I believe that we will be gap disciplined and we will have a great time stopping Jordan and Thrash, because Tony Gibson's going to say, hey, Aiden, follow that Thrash kid everywhere he goes. Like they said in the Full House theme song, everywhere you look, everywhere you go, he should be there with him. He should he's right there. But with that being said, I don't think that that'll be the case. And our offense has scored, again, exactly 24 points in every game against the Power 5 team. I think that they break that streak going a little bit over. But with that being said, I'm not sure if Jack Plummer has another masterclass in him or if he has a disaster class on the way. I've got Louisville winning this game. I'm going to say 35-27.
For me, it's very difficult for me to pick against NC State in a game where I truly think that they can win. I saw some of the disadvantages when we were up against Notre Dame, and because of that, I picked Notre Dame to win the game, and they did. I see some big-time challenges in this game, too, against Louisville. I see some mismatches. I see some things that Louisville can definitely exploit if we allow them to. I still think there's just something there in my gut that tells me NC State is going to be able to pull this out. I think NC State will be able to get in the backfield multiple times, make Jack Plummer sweat, force a couple mistakes, and then, of course, we hope to take full advantage of those mistakes. But I do think this game will be very back and forth. I think if we turn Louisville over, I think in turn they're going to turn us over a couple times as well. So it's going to probably come down to whoever's got the ball last. I don't see it being a one-sided game regardless of final score, but I think ultimately NC State has the better defense. The offense is going to have to find a way to generate some points, but I think they have the capability of doing so. Of course, earlier I mentioned this is a big-time show-me game for Brendan Armstrong. It's got to be now or never. The doubts are out there. The Boo Birds are out in song. He has the capability of completing big plays got to have it on Friday night. I also think that Louisville has not played in a true road environment. You could maybe argue that they had against Georgia Tech and Atlanta, but I still don't see that as a true road game. It's going to be rowdy. It's going to be loud. It's going to be a blackout in Carter-Finley. Give me NC State in a crazy Friday night game by a score of 30-27.
All right. Well, listen, I picked against the Wolfpack and been wrong in the past. Hopefully that's the situation here. You know, in the words of Aubrey Graham, I got high hopes for you fellas. We gonna see.
Expectations change as the season goes on. Louisville has looked a lot better than I have expected them to at this point in time, but I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to take NC State on Friday night. That'll do it for us here on Thursday. Keep in mind our crossover episode with Dalton of Locked On Louisville is tomorrow on Friday. Should be a great episode. Very excited to see what Dalton has to say about the upcoming matchup. Until then, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Get those comments in the comment box. We'll respond to each and every one of those. And I also believe at time of recording here, we are 2 subscribers away from 700. So if you're listening and you have not mashed that button yet, you know what to do. We'll see you all tomorrow for the Locked On crossover. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.